People of Reddit. What's something you can admit about a company you no longer work for? Nursing homes are always understaffed and overworked. The worst one I ever saw was 3 caregivers to 72 residents. That's 3 people who are responsible for feeding, toileting, and showering 72 people every day. Mistakes and abuse are incredibly common due to the sheer burnout that is rampant. A 16-hour shift that you aren't allowed to leave because of abandonment laws for another 16 hours because someone didn't show up for their shift, and doing so while making barely above minimum wage. Ada because this blew up and I assumed it would get buried. I live in Washington State. There are some exceptions, but here's some info on the abandonment laws nursing homes threaten workers with. They count on workers to not know all the loopholes and exceptions. Text the 20 Law 20 defines 25 BRCW 2070 for .34 to C20 shelter to C20 or 20 health 20 care. If it seems as though your health insurance claim is being processed by a bunch of gorillas in heat throwing aren't far off. We supported 1,000 businesses' office phone systems and they all use the same password for their admin access to their systems. Anytime you think your company is just a hot mess behind closed doors and everyone else has their shit together everywhere is as hot a mess as yours. My family owned veterinary hospitals. Now, I know the price has gotten nuts, but that is not what this post is about. Most vets truly care, and I have seen some do anything, literally anything, to help your animal. I remember wanting to leave after closing. So tired, and my dad, the vet, telling me he wasn't leaving yet. He wanted to sit with this one dog all night. In the kitchen of the finest restaurants, there is a lot of cocaine. Long past NDA, I used to support restaurant POS systems. Every system managed and supported by us had the same admin username and password for the computers, the admin software backup house, and the credit card processing software. Also, their employee database file on the terminals was an Excel spreadsheet. It had their names, login addresses, date of birth, phone numbers, social security numbers, etc. And you could mention the aforementioned admin username password to access them. They also outsource support to a country that hates the US. As I trained them, they reminded me, quite often, how they don't like the US. At the company I worked for, everyone was assigned a Microsoft account. This was used for Outlook emailing and Teams for instant messaging and video calls. Naturally, plenty of privileged and sensitive information was exchanged in these ways. Everyone had the same password. It was first name. Every employee and manager. I didn't have the guts to test the theory on an executive's account. And this was a company that, among other droll and boring trainings, made sure we had our requisite cybersecurity anti-phishing training. There was lots more silliness at that company, but that right there tells you all you need to know. Here's an open secret: IT workers are really good at Googling your problem. Drug use was more common than I realized. It is very difficult for IHG to remove hotels from the portfolio if they are paying their dues and are mid-life cycle. They can be a very bad hotels, and there is nothing that can be done except for some rare life-threatening situations. Have consistently failed every quality evaluation for years, but will remain in the system because at the end of the day, they make money for the company no matter how hard they harm the brand name. Marriott can do it a bit more easily for non-compliant hotels due to the structure of the quality department being through a third party. Your luggage at an airport isn't actually handled with care. McDonald's is one of the cleanest fast food restaurants, as strange as that may sound. Excel, no matter how fancy your tech systems are, your boss just wants a half-decent Excel sheet to keep track of everything. Dozens of things are stolen from every single Walmart, every single day. And the fucks given by management about it are very few and far between. Edit, they like to pretend otherwise, but in reality management actively joke about how much shit was stolen day to day. What they say to everyone else and what they say behind the scenes doesn't remotely match up. As a former compliance director for telehealth mental health agencies, I would urge people to run from agencies like BetterHelp, Talkspace, Charlie Health, Guideline Healthcare, Ali Health, etc. These are started by tech cores and other dollar-driven corporations and have little interest in protecting you, whether it's your mental health, confidentiality, or ethically driven care. These places are unacceptable and have low-quality treatment providers. You are best to find a local MH agency or individuals on Psychology Today. I worked for a candy company that makes chocolate-coated pretzels and turtles for over 5 years. By the time I left, I wouldn't eat the candy even when they were giving it away. I saw them let tainted product leave the factory and covering it up because reworking it would be too expensive to faking food safety compliance and safety checks. Got replaced at once, so maybe it's better now, but holy shit. It made me paranoid about packaged food in general and a little horrified at how much blind faith we put in the people that make our food. I worked for a bunny farm where we're raising bunnies for laboratories. They investigated my identity for weeks to see if I was some sort of Greenpeace agent. I found it weird at first, but then I understood why. They kept 7-8 bunnies in a square meter cage and didn't give a f about them. They were using metal scrubs to scrub the cages and break baby bunnies' legs while doing it. Some smaller bunnies were falling out of the cage in a section that all their poop trash was crushed by a machine and would make a little squeak before getting crushed. I quit after 4 days. Worst experience in my life. Some brokerage firms are like gyms. They want you to sign up and they hope they never see you again. I'll be vague. In the US, there are certain rights you have under workers' comp. These include where you're scheduled for an exam, how far from your home, what happens if you don't have the correct in-network facilities, the alternatives you're allowed to use in those cases. It varies a lot, but for the most part, the state with the most protections I've seen is NY anyway. Scheduling companies don't follow or care about these rules unless you bring them up. 99% of patients don't know their rights, get denied claims because they weren't offered near-in-network imaging MRI, CT scans, bone density tests, etc., and are written as no-shows because they weren't given ON options nor transportation. Usually the ones who don't speak English have the highest number of these issues. Look up your rights if you're dealing with workers' comp. Lures are dirty and there's bugs everywhere, and they're reusing dirty sheet pans from raw product for baked product and spreading frangipane all over things that shouldn't be covered in raw nut butter. But if you try and call that out, you're a bitch and fired, LOL. We used to own a couple of gyms. I guarantee you that your membership can be canceled without all the bullshit. Most of them just try to squeeze every single thing they can get out of you. They stole $510 million in PPP loans and laid off 2/3 of their staff in the same breath, one of the largest PPP loan recipients in my state. For years, we manufactured processes thousands of components incorrectly that substantially increased the probability of sudden and catastrophic failure. The component, well, it's the main attachment points for various missiles bombs for the US. This shortly after working there. Notified the operations manager, who ignored it. Notified the president, who kind of acknowledged it but refused to address it or notify the customer. Finally notified the ownership, who promptly had me replaced, LOL. A previous CFO had stolen and gambled away a lot of the company's money, and the rest of the management kept it quiet so that most of the employees didn't and probably still don't know that it happened. PPP loans were used to give massive executive bonuses at a nationally known real estate broker. Drugs, everyone, everywhere, all, the healthcare, insurance. Thanks for watching.